What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Today we are on the test server, but we're not going to be doing any testing. Today we are going to be doing a critical analysis of the upcoming fusion Granyt Doorkeep and how he compares against Leonardo. So if you guys haven't seen both showcases yet, I highly recommend you guys check out those showcases on both these champions. But here we have Granyt Doorkeep. He is the upcoming fusion that's going to be happening on Monday. I'll provide links to both showcases in the description below, but he's HP based damage dealer. Now, I'm not going to spoil too much for you guys, but Granyt Doorkeep here, he could fit for some accounts and I could see him not fitting. He's not a slam dunk must do champion in my opinion, but he can definitely work in the right account. Now, we'll talk more about these champions in more detail in a bit, but basically, Granyt Doorkeep is the upcoming fusion, and we have to decide whether you want to spend your resources to get Granyt Doorkeep or continue saving resources for Leonardo. Now, Leonardo, as per leaked documentation, is slated to get his own Heroes Path event sometime in October. Now, we actually don't know anything about what this Hero Path event looks like or what is required for it. But we know, or it is at least mentioned, that Leonardo, the champion, and his 5-star soul will be available in the Hero's Path. Knowing this, or at least anticipating this, now we are at a bit of a junction between this fusion and spending resources on Granyt versus continuing to save for Leonardo. So let's break it down a little bit here. All right, guys, so here I am using a spreadsheet. So just to make things a little bit easier to compare the both of them here, we got both of the stats laid out here for both of these champions. You can kind of see HP based damage dealer with very high HP for Granyt here. Pretty good base speed, a little bit faster than Leonardo. Both have the boosted crit damage. A little bit of accuracy here for Granyt as well, which helps with building him out. Leonardo requires 9 books and Granyt requires 11 books. Now, Leonardo's event most likely will appear in the game if the leaked documentation is true in about 2.5 weeks from now, whereas the fusion is going to happen in a day. So you don't really have too much time to prep for the fusion, but for Leonardo, you still have a couple weeks away. Leonardo event is also going to be a 3 or 4 day event, most likely, whereas the fusion is a 2-week event. So some of this might not work for you, right? Like if you're not available for 2 weeks, you can't really do the fusion. So how do you decide which champion is better or worse, or which champion would you rather go for? Like I said, we're going to do the critical breakdown here in this video. All right, so the question that is probably the most important for you guys, or the one that's going to make or break your decision making right away, is how much resources do you have currently available? So basically, if you have no resources, you cannot even do any of them. You can't do any of these champions unless you're committed to spending a lot of money. Now, it gets interesting once you start having some resources. So how much resources do you have? Let's take a look here at Leonardo. You need a high amount of resources. Based on previous champions in these type of events, it's going to cost you 20 to 25 sacred shards. That is an estimate. You can obviously mix in some other shards to make up for the point value. These are the point values that we saw in the Podrig's Heroes Path. So we're just going to use it here. I don't think more recent Heroes Path have much different breakdowns, to be honest. Yes, we saw a little bit of deviance in like Deck of Fates and all that, but in Heroes Path, it's usually about this type of point value. So what's important about this is that, again, based on most of the Heroes Path, we're seeing 20 to 25 Sacred Shards worth of points, and we're expecting the champion to cost between 90 and 100,000 points. So you can kind of do the math there based on the amount of shards that you have if Leonardo was to be had through shards. If you don't have shards, you basically can't complete Leonardo unless you complete the secondary condition, which again, we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but we assume it could be soul stones or it could be energy. And here are the point breakdowns from the same Podrig Hero Path for the points for each of the soul stones. So 100 for mortal, 1500 for immortal, and 7500 for eternal. Keep in mind that again, Leonardo will probably cost you 90 to 100,000 points. And then if you just have energy, if you just want to spend energy to get Leonardo, roughly is going to cost you about 50,000 energy or about 15,000 gems. If you want to do it fully entirely with energy, that's usually how much it costs. So you can kind of see here that yes, it's pretty expensive. However, we had some time to prep for this, but this is definitely not a brand new player type of event. If you're a brand new player, it's going to be a spender event, so you're going to have to be spending. And, most likely you're going to be spending on some of these easier items that you can basically burn through quickly, because if you are a brand new player, you won't have dungeon teams created and you probably won't be able to use your energy very efficiently. So needless to say, it's very expensive to get Leonardo through this guaranteed event if it happens in October. Now, on the flip side, this fusion costs substantially less. Now, I've provided some breakdowns here for the upcoming Summon Rush. So most likely the fusion will start with the Summon Rush on the upcoming Friday, which is about a week from now, or 5 or 6 days from now. So if you have currently this many resources, you can actually attempt to do the fusion instead. So if you have enough resources to complete the first Summon Rush, for example, the rare, which can be picked up for, it really depends, between 5 and 7 sacred shards worth of points. I do have the shard breakdown here in terms of points, so you can do your own math. Each sacred shard is worth 500 points, for example. So yeah, about 6 sacred shards for the rare. There's probably going to be an epic option, so you can get an epic, which then saves you from doing a bunch of events, which is pretty nice. But for the epic, it's probably going to cost you anywhere from 10 to 12 sacred shards. It's quite expensive, but you do get a chance to skip a bunch of events afterwards, which is pretty nice. So it really depends on what kind of shards you have and how much you are willing to spend to get that epic instead of spending other resources. The second summon event usually is a champion chase, and that will be 2 weeks from the start of the fusion. And usually the rare comes in at about 3,000 or 3,500 points. Keep in mind that we can probably fuse the epics during the champion chase, so you'll get some additional points there as well. And if I'm not mistaken, this champion chase at the second week of the fusion is probably going to be 2x sacred shards. Sacred shards are not the best used for champion chase. They don't provide you much of a boost during 2x events, so keep that in mind as well. But you can kind of see here the overall resources is much less. Now, the energy required to complete a fusion like this usually takes between 15 and 20,000 energy. It really depends on how progressed you are, how much energy you're committing to training, how efficient you're using your energy in between events, and so forth. Keep in mind that this total happens over 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to basically amass this much energy from gems, events. It also, you can use inbox energy, or energy you've saved, or energy you can acquire from other areas of the game like Cintranos, Doom Tower, etc. And lastly, you need about 60 million silver over 2 weeks. Ideally, you probably start with 10 million silver just to get you through the first silver enhancement event. And then as you do the fusion, as you grind through the dungeons, you start accumulating silver, and then you can just chip away at each of the artifact enhancement events once they show up. But overall, this is what you're expecting to spend for these events. Now, like I said, Leo's event is 2 weeks away. This gives you guys a little bit of time to basically amass a little bit more resources, namely shards. But also keep in mind that it might have an energy component, so saving some gems also makes sense as well. So this is a key question to ask. How much resources do you actually have? If you have less resources than is required to actually complete the fusion, then basically Leonardo is completely out of the picture unless you want to go on a massive whale spree in about 2 weeks. But if you have resources kind of in the middle, so you can complete the fusion, but you can't do Leo, then you actually have a really strong decision, because now you have to decide whether you want to go for the fusion and give up on Leonardo or continue to go for Leonardo. Again, there is no guarantee that Leonardo's Hero's Path will show up as per the leaked documentation. We are only reporting what we saw, but it makes absolute sense that they do provide guaranteed events for the exclusive champions in the last month of this collab, because it's their last chance to basically capitalize on their investment. So if you guys are stuck in the middle of these two kind of resource requirements, you kind of need to take a look at your own account, how much it progressed. Will you be able to amass enough resources to go for Leonardo? If you're stuck in the middle, for example, if you're not quite at Leonardo but you have more than the fusion, more than what's required for fusion, then you have to kind of assess your own account and see if you can actually acquire these amount of shards. Keep in mind that the new Doom Tower rotation is here, so there's 2 more sacreds there as well. Keep in mind your monthly sacreds, for example. The resource question is your first big question, whether deciding to go for Leonardo or to go for the fusion. So let's say you can only do one of the champions. Which one would you rather prefer? Now we're doing a bit of a champion breakdown here, so we can kind of have a better look at exactly what each of them does. So Leonardo for the buffs, he does increased defense, ally protection for your whole team. So he does have some benefits there. And does a bunch of self buffs as well, counterattack, unkillable, and stone skin. For Granyt, he does provide some really, really nice buffs for your entire team. Shatter, crit damage, and increased accuracy. These are really, really good buffs. I would say Granyt wins in terms of the buff category, especially the buffs that benefit your whole team. Now, in terms of the damage category, which champion actually comes out ahead for damage? Now, from my playtest, Leonardo definitely seems much stronger even without the turtles. He scales off of buffs. This is a damage scale off of both teams. So buffs off of both teams, which is really, really strong. It's only 5% per buff, but he does get bonuses from both teams. Most champions is just scaling off buffs on your own team. So him benefiting from both teams is really, really powerful. He also only has ignore defense on his A1 if he doesn't rely on the turtles. But if he has the turtles on his team, he gets quite a bit of a boost on his A3. Now, Granyt, like I said, he does provide self buffs, so shatter and crit damage versus Leo's increased defense. But Granyt also self cleanses, so he can actually take off things like Enfeeble, which can be really game breaking, right? So he self cleanses before he big hits. He has ignore defense on his A1, similar to Leo, but he does have a bunch of conditional stuff that can boost his damage as well. You can kind of see here he has a conditional A3 damage boost, a 100% boost. He has the passive that boosts his damage, and he also has an extra turn mechanic on his A3 when he kills somebody, so he can get more damage out that way as well. So you can kind of tell here that Granyt actually has more ways of maybe like dishing out damage compared to Leo. But from my playtest, Leo definitely was very, very powerful and in my opinion, much stronger than Granit's overall damage output. So I would definitely give the edge to Leo. And that's not even factoring in the turtle ally bonus. Now let's talk about the X factors for both of these champions. So Leo actually has a stone skin passive, which actually can keep him alive once he starts taking a lot of damage. He also has some crazy turtle unity bonuses once you pair him with some turtles. He gets ignore defense. He gets damage that goes up based on how much HP he's missing. He also gets a passive attack activation on his A3, which is insane. He comes with a better team aura. The increased defense is a little bit better than the increased crit rate. He also has a conditional team strip, which again is very powerful and does not require accuracy. Another thing is he does not require accuracy. And the champion Leonardo is quite exclusive. He's not going to be in the pool anymore after this collab. And I would say this is probably one of the biggest draws for Leonardo here. For Granyt brings really, really good team debuffs. Now, he brings decreased defense and the block buffs, which is really good. Some people would really, really value this, especially for Hydra teams. And the accuracy requirement on him is not crazy because he does bring increased accuracy as well. His A1 also brings a strip, which is extra utility, and his triple hit as well, which is super nice. He has a passive CC removal similar to Fabian, so it's really hard to control him, again, which helps him push damage through. The negative about him is that he does require a little bit of accuracy to make use of some of the debuffs. And depending on the level of content that you're doing, he might require a lot of accuracy, even with increased accuracy in his kit. And the big draw for Granyt is that he has the ability to kill through stone skin, unkillable, and block damage. Now, something else I haven't mentioned yet is that Leonardo actually is a void champion. So a void damage dealing champion has a huge advantage over an affinity damage dealing champion because they don't weak hit, especially one that needs to land debuffs. Being affinity is actually a big drawback. So that is a huge X factor positive for Leonardo here compared to Granyt, who is Spirit Affinity. Now, after we talked about all these pros and cons of both champions, we kind of laid it out here so it's easier to see. What is the verdict? What is the verdict on this? Assuming that you can only go for one of these champions, which ones would you choose? And here I put the verdict here. For Leonardo, the biggest question at the end of this is, do you plan on using the turtles? Because if you do plan on using the turtles in any kind of capacity, that's going to push Leonardo over the edge and give him immense value. Leonardo also is a void affinity nuker, which is absolutely insane. If you do not have one in your roster, his value goes up insanely high. He is super good at dealing damage, so that's probably one of the biggest draws for him as well. And then for Granit's side, what is the biggest questions that you can ask? And it's going to be, do you value the debuffs? do you value the debuffs that Granyt brings? Because he brings AoE decreased defense and the block buffs, which again is very sought after for a couple areas in the game, mainly for Hydra. So if you don't have 3 Hydra teams set up, he could bring a lot of value, as well as pitch in some damage as well. Granyt is also a more flexible champion. So if you don't have insane gear to gear out defense-based damage dealer super well like Leonardo, or maybe your account needs more than just a damage dealer, well, Granyt can actually be a support champion. He can bring decreased defense, block buffs. He can also bring buffs as well. And like I said in my showcase, I did use him in a 9-piece protection set to give him some additional value as well. So in general, he's not just a damage dealer. He's a bit more of a flexible champion. Whereas Leonardo is strictly a damage dealer. You can definitely use him for increased defense and maybe ally protection for like clan boss or something. But his kit is made to do damage. Ultimately, it's really hard for me to say, go for this, go for that. You have to assess your own account and see which one actually fits your account a little bit better. Honestly, I think most people would benefit from either one of these on their rosters. They're both great champions for their respective factions, although both factions are pretty stacked, like Shadowkin and Dwarves, they're pretty stacked. Leonardo also has additional synergies with Mikage as well, so you can get just crazy amount of damage out of him. But Granyt brings the all-powerful like ignore defense shatter buff, which is really cool. It's a unique buff as well, and that's just going to boost the damage of your whole team. So it's really hard. I think Playroom did a pretty decent job of providing a fusion that will at least make you think and question whether you actually want it over Leonardo, especially given that Leonardo is probably going to be super expensive to get. However, I think the biggest thing with all this is that Leonardo is an exclusive champion. He can never be pulled again after this collab. And I think the merits of him versus Granyt can be argued, but I think Leonardo does do a little bit more damage, is easier to keep alive because he does have the passive stone skin, and he is void affinity, which gives him a massive advantage from a damage dealer perspective. But I think it's possible that we can also agree that Granyt might be a better champion for maybe newer accounts, maybe accounts that are more towards progressing in the mid game. He does bring AoE decreased defense. He does bring block buffs, which isn't something that a lot of people have, especially early on in their raid journey. And he also brings 2 damage boosting buffs that are universally good. So you can use them on any type of damage dealer, not just attack based or defense based or HP based, but you can use them on all damage dealers, which definitely has a lot of value as well. I think these champions are different enough that this conversation needed to be had, and then we can critically break down which ones fit your account the best. So hopefully this video helped you guys out with that and your decision making. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was informative and helping you guys come to a conclusion. If you guys enjoy the content, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button, would really help me out. We're covering more of the Granyt fusion as it drops, so stay tuned for more videos on that. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching until the end. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.